Hey everybody, thanks so much for tuning in. On today's episode of conventioNOT, Ryan and I sit down and chat with Chris B. Harris, aka DJ Skrilla. If I had to title Chris with a single label, it would be creator. He's been creating music since he was a teenager. It's only recently that you started hearing his productions, whether it's that ESPN commercial, the credits at the end of the movie, or that Hallmark card you recently opened that rapped at you. That was Chris B. Harris. You gotta sit down though and hear his full story. It's full of ups and downs, sorrow, redemption, all the good stuff you want in a story. But the bottom line is the way that Chris tells it. His personality and energy are infectious. I have no doubt his future is going to just be full of successes and excellent things. So sit down, pour yourself some tea, whatever it is you do to get in that good state. You're gonna wanna get to know Chris Harris. He's not going anywhere. What's up, man?
What's up?
It's good to meet you.
Nice to meet you, man.
The man behind the mic.
Something like that, right?
I was excitedly sharing with my wife last night, just kind of scrolling through your feed, and she was like, wait, what? Like, she had all these questions that I didn't have answers to. And I said, honestly, I'm going to figure out a lot more tomorrow. I don't really know a whole lot about him, but we all know him. You know, he's in all our ears. That's such a crazy, that's a weird kind of power, man. I'm excited to hear more about the process and what's next, bro.
Yeah. I appreciate you all having me here. I'm excited about it.
I don't know if I've ever seen a picture of you, Chris, if you weren't working or at the studio. So.
Oh, man, look, they were trying to get me to the studio today. I'm like, no, I can't do it. It's not happening. So today is all about self-care.
Well, I'm glad you decided to join us for self-care. I'll introduce you. People are wondering, what the hell is Mike talking about? Today, our guest is Chris Harris, lifelong content creator. And I also know that you juggle a long-term music career with a regular professional job, which I'm sure is probably not too easy in the world of hip hop, or maybe hasn't been too easy over the years. So we have known of each other for a long time. We just finally shook hands. Chris went to college with my wife, Anna. Mm-hmm. And I guess that's really about all I know about you, other than, I've listened to a lot of your music over the years. But maybe you know more about yourself. You could give a little introduction.
Yeah. Thanks for having me. Once again, my name is Chris Harris. I have 2 to 3 different artist names. DJ Skrilla. There's also Hill Harris. There's another one out there too. I think, that's the first time anyone's ever referred to me as a content creator. And when I hear that, man, it's I guess you're actually right, because music has been sort of the main vehicle, but I've really just dabbled into a lot of different areas as far as content creation. And my day job is I work at the Cuyahoga County Medical Examiner's office, aka the morgue. And sort of after I'm off work there, I really get into making songs for TV and film. So those are sort of my 2 main jobs.
Pretty diverse there, Chris. We're talking about music and content and all these real soft and pretty things. And then you say you work at the morgue.
Drop that in nice and slyly.
So obviously, I don't know if Ryan's explained my background at all, but I work in forensics. So,
oh yeah,
not you're literally hands-on, man. But I'm way after the fact. But I got to dive into that right away. I feel like we're going to talk about the content more, but you're 9 to 5, Cuyahoga County Medical Examiner's office. I mean, was that a Craigslist ad, bro? How did you get in there?
All right, so check this out. I went to Kent State University. My focus was journalism. So coming out of college, I wanted to work for ESPN. I had some TV experience before, and I'm like, you know what? I'm going to be a sports reporter. Well, that didn't happen. ESPN did not come calling, and I had to find a job. So I did PR for about 7 years at a company that was based in Cleveland. And I was just kind of in this weird spot in my life where, I don't know if you guys have gone through this, but you're 25 years old and you're just I'm not where I want to be. I just thought my life would be so much more advanced, right, at that time. And really, what does that even mean? But that's how I felt. And I needed a change. So I just sort of started to apply for jobs. And I saw a posting at the local county government for a communication specialist. And I said, this is perfect. This is it. And I get to the interview, and the first question they ask me is, how do you feel about dead bodies? And I'm like, yeah, I mean, how do you even answer that? Like, how would you all answer that?
That's a super loaded question, right? I feel like most of us are supposed to be like, I've never seen a dead body. What are you talking? I don't know. I don't know what kind of feelings I would have.
So I'm just really scared at this point. I'm like, what am I applying for? What did I get myself into? And I'm sort of embarrassed because I'm like, oh, I'm a journalism guy, but I didn't read the application all the way. And it says I'd be a communication specialist for the medical examiner. And one thing led to another, and here I am.
Like, give me more examples of, like, how are they communicating to the public? I mean, I guess I don't pay attention. You know what I mean? Like, what's the day-to-day?
A lot of my day-to-day duties just involve handling just the communication efforts of the office. So, that might be writing a press release one day about, hey, we had, 10 fentanyl overdoses over the weekend, right? Or it could be answering media questions where a homicide occurs. Well, how the news often gets that information is they'll get it from a medical examiner's office or a coroner's office because they have jurisdiction over that body. So there's a certain point when that information becomes public. That's what I basically give out to the media.
Okay.
And then it becomes a controlled outlet that way, I would assume, right? You either give the thumbs up or get the thumbs up to give the thumbs up to somebody that way. Man, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. And I mean, not to be the media thing I hone in on is like, so you're constantly communicating about something bad, right? Like, that's just inherent to your job.
Yeah.
Right. Like, every day I can't make this too rosy, but I have to relay this information. How do you not become a robot about it, bro? Like,
creative outlets. I mean, everybody's different. I don't try to fake it. Right.
Sure.
I think if you work around death, it's very easy to say, oh, well, you just don't take the stuff home with you or it doesn't bother you. But I don't think that's realistic. I think you have to allow yourself to feel things. Yeah, man, I see some pretty messed up stuff some days. And some days I'll see a case and it'll really get to me. And we can talk about those type of things too, if you want to. But that's just really how I approach it on a daily basis. And so when I got to the office, someone said, hey, we speak for those that can no longer speak. And that just stuck with me ever since, because that's essentially what we do. We talk for those who can't, sometimes even talk for themselves or defend themselves, right? We can say, hey, this person died of some very suspicious circumstances, and here's why. And they can't defend themselves.
I went to college on a journalism scholarship once upon a time and then kind of moved along to advertising. But like most of the journalists, like graduates that I'm friends with, they write for more like creative outlets, right?
And when you tell people that, like, you just see their eyes just get real big and they're like, oh my gosh. And then they'll like pull me to the side. All right, so tell me some stuff. Like, what kind of stuff do you see? And they're just all interested, but not everyone likes to necessarily admit that.
How many years have you been with the examiner's office?
It'll be 7 years in December.
Oh, shit. Okay.
Yeah. It's been a journey. And, in that 7 years, I mean, man, I've seen just stuff I never would imagine, to have seen, from a plane crash to someone getting hit by a train. Actually, that was the first case I ever saw. So let me break down a little bit of like what I do sort of when I get to the office. First thing I do when I get to the office is I compile a report of all the people that have died within the last 24 hours. And this is just all the deaths that have come to our office, right? So we don't get everybody that dies in the county, just certain cases, right?
Gotcha.
Accidents, suicides, all that stuff. And then I'll send it to the media. And then after I send that to the media, maybe 5-10 minutes later, they'll start calling or emailing me. Hey, tell us about this case. Tell us about that case, right?
Really? Every day?
Every day. Yeah. I could show you guys just a sample report, and that's all public record too. That's like public information.
Sure.
And, but if someone dies, like it'll say like death location in vehicle at Walmart, right? Well, people are going to be like, hey,
people want to know what Walmart someone died at.
Exactly.
And then they go write their article based on whatever that might mean to them or however that might work.
And they may have information already, but they just need me to confirm things and stuff like that. So they listen to police scanners all day. So that's the first part. And then there's a morning meeting every morning, and it's got all the forensic pathologists, all the doctors that do the autopsies, some supervisors, and I sit on this meeting, and we basically triage every case, and we go through the photos from the scenes. They talk about sort of what happened with this person before they died. And then they'll make a determination of whether we autopsy them or we do a no post, which is they just view the body and sign the death certificate.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So that was where I saw my first case. And it was, I'll never forget it. It was a suicide. It was a gentleman who basically laid on a train track. And I mean, it was just like, okay, this is real. Like, this is real. You don't hear about suicides on the news typically, right? Unless it's someone very famous, very prominent. You don't hear about it.
Yeah, not your local news. Yeah.
Yeah, they usually stay away from that. And that was the very first case that I saw. And it stuck with me ever since.
So you show up that day with your Egg McMuffin in hand, and they lay out some pictures, and they try to convince you that was a human body. Like, man,
yeah. And there was like this part where I'm looking at this photo, and I mean, you can imagine what damage a train will do to a human body, right? So it's just like, I can't believe that this actually happened. So it really just shocked me. And then as the years have gone by, I've seen these type of incidents more and more, but listen, just when you think you've seen it all, you see something else and you're like, whoa. Yeah.
That's really heavy, Chris. And like, what I can't wrap my head around is, you went to school for journalism, man. And now you're like in the room with these people deciding like, do we need to do a postmortem? Like, is this, and not like you don't deserve to be in that room by any means, but like, there's got to be days where you're like, man, I did not sign up for this shit. Like, come on, man.
All the time. I'm like, how did I even wind up here? And like, I get that question all the time. So I give tours to like high school students and college students. They're like, well, how did you wind up here? And a lot of times I'm like, man, I don't even know. I'm still wrapping my mind around it. So
I know that term content creators, like maybe a newer one that you just heard today, but man, that is prime for a freaking sitcom writing, bro.
I think about that all the time. I'm like, I should just like write this down just for later and, create some, the next Netflix series or something, Yeah.
I feel like it has to be a challenge to not throw some creativity into some of the stories.
There is no sense of humor around the medical examiner's office.
You know what? I thought there would be no sense of humor, but you kind of have to have a little bit of sense of humor.
A little bit, right?
But you of course, you have to have like your limits. We are dealing with like, loved ones from families and, some pretty sensitive topics, but you do have to have a sense of humor to just like get through the day sometimes, because if you don't laugh, man, you'll burn out quick.
And like you said, you still got to be sincere about it, but I know what you mean about being able to almost kind of go through the motions. That's always associated with like half-assing it or not, being totally present. But I think sometimes like in your job, to be 100% present and like involved emotionally, sorry, but that's too much, like you couldn't be, and not every day at least. So you need to have that kind of like fallback where you can, like you said, I don't think anyone turns it off, but
this is out of sheer curiosity. Mike, how often do you end up talking to medical examiner's office?
I don't talk with too many people directly, but I see their work, I see the coroner's reports pretty often. A lot of times, Chris, what I'm working on is like motor vehicle accidents.
Okay.
So I get involved in a lot of vulnerable pedestrian incidents, cyclist incidents, and I'm sure you've experienced those can be pretty graphic, and depending on depending on the autopsy and the cause of death, the details and things like that. But yeah, I mean, it's just part of the job. It's information.
You know what? A lot of times, when I have students and stuff, they'll ask me like, well, what cases bother you? Right. And I think for most people at the office, young children, I have a young son. So when we do see babies and toddlers that die in these very unfortunate circumstances, that can definitely be hard. But for me, motor vehicle accidents, I don't know what it is about them, but they really bother me. They really do. Really do, especially if they're like teenagers. And those are the tough ones, man. To switch gears to something I think is like actually really cool about the job and, forensic science. So we identify pretty much most people that actually come to the office. There's like really only a case or two that I can think of since I've been there where they're still unidentified. But a lot of our identifications are made through fingerprints. But like, did you know, like, even if you've been in a house fire, there's a chance you could still get identified through fingerprints? I don't know. Do you all? I'm sure you know, Mike. Yeah.
Oh, that shit. I love that stuff.
Ryan, do you know how we would identify somebody if they've been in a fire? Through fingerprints.
Through fingerprints? I was just thinking about that. No, I don't even have a guess on that.
All right. So if it's a fire, right? Their body is pretty charred, right? What they may actually have to do is peel off that first layer of skin. For lack of a better analogy, it's kind of like a marshmallow, right? You kind of take the shell off, and then what they'll do is they'll actually take that first layer of skin off, flip it inside out, and then roll ink on it and fingerprint them that way, because your fingerprints go several layers deep. And then they'll scan it into a computer and
so cool,
flip and reverse the image.
Hey, it's Ryan from the show. Do you know somebody who might be a good guest for us to talk to? Mike and I are always curious to talk to new people and hear about the way that they achieve the happiness despite some kind of crazy job or strange story that's affected them in life. So if that's somebody you know, please reach out to us on one of our social media channels. You can find us on Instagram at conventioNOT_podcast, on Facebook or Twitter at the same. Thanks for listening. Now back to the show.
Chris, can I ask what that PR job that like had you questioning your life and stuff? I mean, you said something earlier about like your mid-20s, you had the job and you were like, I don't know. Dude, I think most of us do go through that. At least those of us who are happier in our 40s, right? Because if you don't go through that in your mid or late 20s, that shit's harder to go through in your 30s. Yeah. The whole like, man, this job sucks. Maybe that degree wasn't everything I wanted it to be, but you went through that at 25. That's actually pretty good. The earlier you're asking those questions, the better. But what were you doing? What was that dead end job you had?
You know what? I think there are like certain moments in my life where I feel like I was like on the verge of having this spiritual awakening, and then it happened, right? So I'm in my mid 20s. And when I started at this PR company, what they did was press release distribution. My entry level position, it was not a creative job. It was like customer service, answering the phones and stuff. And that's fine, right? But I don't really thrive I'm not happy in situations like that. I need to create. I need to feel like I can be innovative and sort of think outside the box. And my performance was great, but I just didn't feel satisfied. And then on top of that, I'm mid 20s. I thought I'd be married by then. I was single. I wasn't sure what I was doing with my life. Yeah, I was having some mild success with music and things like that, but it just seemed like every time I thought I was going to make it or, take that next step, I just would fall back 3 or 4 steps. So I was actually just in a mild depression at the time. And I'll never forget, I'm like, why am I feeling this way? And a gentleman that I worked with, this guy, Joe, he just pulled me to the side and he's just like, hey, if you need to like talk to somebody, you should do that. He's like, I just started seeing a therapist. I just lost my mom and then my dad died, shortly after. And I don't know, just him telling me that just kind of made me put my guards down. And then I started seeing a therapist and I've been seeing one since. And then I just kind of had this confidence to just like, all right, I need to change my scenery, because this isn't good for me. I need to go find something else that's fitting for where I am right now.
Damn, that was the first step, though. Literally, like colleague pulled you aside and was like, I can see you're in it, man. And
yeah. And he wasn't even like a close colleague. I mean, this was just like someone who could just sense that I was experiencing something. Right. And I'm forever just like grateful that he had the courage and really the knowledge to just like offer that to me, because I mean, I don't know if you've ever talked to other people about therapy. Some people are just like, no, I don't need to talk to anybody. I'm not crazy.
That's not an easy line to cross, especially if you don't really know somebody, and I also commend you, like for you to be in that place and not have your guard up. Right. I mean, most people get in that even mild depression. You're not necessarily a sponge for good advice at that point, right? It gets a lot easier to deflect and reject everything coming at you. So I love when people are open about it. I hate the stigma associated with any sort of self-help.
I think part of it ends up being that we treat mental health in this like binary situation. Yeah. So almost every other part of like your health, I mean, save some like binary acute diagnoses that are like diseases, you treat as like how you are, right? So like if you have a cold, you might like have kind of a cold, or you might have like some allergies, or you might have some things like that. But with mental health, man, like everybody has a status or a level of mental health. Mm-hmm. I think that word like spectrum's getting overused now. And, pardon the reference because it has so much to do with autism, but I think everything is a spectrum. Right. Yep. And so like, if your like mental health was actually a balance, right? If we maybe saw it a little bit more that way, I think maybe it wouldn't have such like a critique, because the reality is like, I think, there's probably like good experiences with therapy, bad experiences with therapy. Yeah. Sometimes things can be fixed, sometimes they can't. It's not that different than any other like piece of healthcare that we go through.
Exactly.
I agree, man.
It like either and again, pardon the reference to our listeners, but like either you're crazy or you're not crazy. And so like that's really like that's only like a one-dimensional thing.
It is a balance, right? Because some days you feel better than others, right? And you kind of just move up and down based on whatever you're dealing with. When I started therapy, I believe it was my therapist at the time, who was since retired, but she framed it to me. She said, look, you go to the gym, you seem like you're in good shape. You're working on your physical fitness. In here, we're going to work on your mental fitness. And I was just like, yo, that's like real. That's real.
That's
different way to think about it.
Ryan, I love the way you put, binary, that term, because it just simplifies like how absolute we tend to think about that shit. Like, oh, you're seeing a therapist? Oh, is everything like, no, man, I'm seeing a therapist. That's why I'm talking. That's why I'm good. Like, no, I'm not on that far edge, right? Like you said, there's all this in between, and just the single idea that you may be working on something, right? Like when you tell people you go to the gym, they're not like, ooh, why are you broken? They're like good for you. Good for you. Right. You're working on your physical self, right? You tell people you're going to a therapist. Yeah. Why don't we get the same, like, good for you? You're probably becoming a more well-rounded person.
I think the optimist in me wants to say that like I think all of us could agree, or at least the majority of us could agree that we're through like this transitional time right now. Like we don't know what we're transitioning to, whether that be in politics or the way that religion works in America or employment in America. I hope that out of the back end of it, we get a little bit more dynamic view of the way that we see happiness, right? Or like sadness. I mean, because it's all part of who we are. And then we've done enough research, or there's at least I mean, this isn't my expertise, but there's enough expertise out there that is published to talk about like actual things that happen to you primarily in childhood that change the way that you could experience happiness. You know, it ain't crazy shit, man. Like it's decades long research. Similar, like to, let's say, like diabetes in some ways, right? Like, could you imagine if a family member of yours had diabetes and you knew that, let's say it's like type 1 diabetes or however, just to be specific, something that requires insulin and shots. And you were like, oh, you went to the doctor? You went to the doctor twice this month? I think folks who are creative and get to have a creative outlet that's positive, right? You get to understand it a little bit differently if you can channel into that, you know, because not all creatives are positive. Talk to us a little bit about your music career, from where that comes from and how that got started.
So I got my start.
Which is why we thought to bring you on the show. Sorry to interrupt you, Chris, but like originally,
we've been talking about death and depression for the first 30 minutes. So we can switch it up a little bit.
I got my start in high school, actually. And I remember just asking for Christmas. Look, I just want this. It was called DJ in a Box. It was a Numark set, 2 turntables, a mixer. And that's all I wanted.
Chris, are you how old are you?
Gosh, I got to be like 16 probably at the time.
Yeah. Got like a little mixer.
Yeah, got my little mixer. Didn't know what I was doing. But to me, I'm like, I got a DJ. I'm a DJ now. So I'm just like, all right, I need a cool name. And I just chose DJ Skrilla. You know, Skrilla's like slang for money. Not that I'm like glorifying money or anything like that. I just like the way it flowed off your tongue and just kind of rolled off it. Skrilla. So,
and it was 1990 something.
Exactly. So, you know, I heard Master P say it in a song. I'm like, that's it.
Yeah.
So I did that. And I had some friends over after school one day, and I just put on this instrumental, like a little break beat, and we just all started just freestyling. Now, I was not like one to just like jump in a cypher, but for some reason this day, I'm on it. You know, I'm like, yeah, come on, let's keep going. And we're just flowing. And then I recorded on like a boom box that was like off to the side. So the audio is just all terrible.
Awful.
Yeah. Awful, just awful. The raps were probably awful too. But I take it to school the next day and I'm playing it for everybody on like a Walkman. Yeah, we had cassette tapes. And people were like, yo, this is like pretty funny and silly, but you're not like that bad. And I'm like, really? And then I really started to transition away from DJing and really just trying to, you know, understand songwriting and making raps. And that's really how I kind of started. And then once I got to Kent State, I really started to take it a lot more seriously, going to the studio, creating albums and things like that. Actually, I did an album in high school too, but like nobody was rapping in high school. Like there were like 4 rappers out of like 2,000 kids in my high school. Now, if you go to high school, there are 2,000 rappers.
Really? Everyone's doing it?
Yeah.
I'm trying to imagine the guy who shows up with the tape and shares that with people. Cause like, dude,
right.
For me as a 16-year-old, there's no way in hell. Like I was doing everything I could to blend in, like just to almost not be noticed, but certainly I wasn't doing anything super outside the norm. You know, I used to skate and stuff. And back then that was pretty abnormal, but like, I kind of just did that shit on the side. I didn't show up to the lunchroom, you know, with the mixtape. I got to hear a little bit more about that, like that version of you. I mean, you must have been a pretty confident teenager to do that.
Wow. I've never had anyone like ask me that question. And I think I've actually always struggled with confidence, right? But when I'm under pressure and it's just like, all right, it's time to put up or shut up, then this confidence just comes out of nowhere. So going into school, listen, I'm sweating bullets here, you know, like, oh, what am I doing? I can't believe I brought this.
Do you remember that day?
Absolutely. Made the tape, brought the tape to school, and it's like, all right, here we go.
Because other people know you have the tape at that like 16-year-old logic.
Exactly.
You got to do it.
And you know what's going to happen. You play the tape for one person, you got to play it for a bunch of other people. And, you know, this wasn't me just like playing the tape and I can hear the live reaction. They have headphones on and you just kind of see their face and they're like confused. and then they're laughing, and then they're confused again, and then they're smiling. And I'm like, I don't know what part they're hearing. I don't know if they like it, if they hate it. And just the feedback after that was like, yo, you should keep doing it.
Just based on the description you gave, is very clearly like a transcendental moment in your youth. You knew, you go home that night, you got your DJ in the box, you got a little more swag. How many records do you have at that point in time that you're able to like start to make beats? I mean, do you go right back home, or because like you couldn't get YouTube download of blank beats at that point in time, right? I mean,
yeah, no. So oh man, this is a trip. All right. So at first, I'm rapping over like instrumentals from like actual songs, like the B-side of a CD single or
because you got a single, right? Then it would have on, totally.
Or the B-side of the vinyl, right? The single, it's got the instrumental. That's what I'm rapping on. But then I hit this period probably when I was a senior where I'm like, well, I want to make an album. I want to make like my own stuff. And there was a guy who was one of my good friends at the time. He had a drum machine. And he was really nice with it. And he had Fruity Loops. Like, this is before it was FL Studio. It was like, yo, you got Fruity Loops. And people would be like, what? Fruity Loops, man? That sounds silly. And it's like, nah, you don't know. And he would make the beats. And then I would just rap on them. And I mean, there were other ways we would get beats like online. There was a community called mp3.com where people would like sell beats and stuff like that. So it was kind of a combination of all that. But my boy, who's actually still making beats now, he would make the majority of them, and I'd just start rapping.
Okay, wait. So, man, all right, this is going to be a long episode for our listeners. They might as well, like, whenever it cuts to break, like, get yourself a drink or pause or whatever you got to do.
Go to the bathroom and come back.
Let me just let me ask you to define a couple things, because I know that Mike and I both know what Fruity Loops is. Could you tell our listeners what's the difference between a mixtape and an album, and then the difference between, a little bit of like that licensing stuff that you're talking about when you decide to publish something? How does that work?
So the early material that I was doing was what I would consider mixtape material. So a mixtape would be like a collection of freestyles, maybe songs that you've created over already released material. So released, beats that you've heard on the radio or on a CD somewhere. That's what I did first. Mm-hmm. Then I wanted to transition to making original music, using beats that we created organically. And then Fruity Loops is basically the software. It's a program called Fruity Loops, where it basically is a program. It's a beat programmer. So, you put in your sound, so you can put a kick drum or a snare or a hi-hat, and you actually program how you want this beat to sound. Which is no different from an actual, whatchamacallit, I'm forgetting the term, the hardware, like an MPC, a drum machine, right?
808.
Exactly. But it's just all on a computer. So
you defined it really well. And I think the other thing that I would add, just because I think I know like the time period this is really like not shit that's available, right? This is pre-cable internet, pre-YouTube. Like this is a relatively dynamic thing to be able to do.
Pre-internet. But yeah, this is like really pre-internet. I mean, I had CompuServe, or Juno. Right? Seriously, like I had at AOL email address. Like I actually had the, welcome, like that joint. Yeah, that's what I had. So
dial up.
Yeah. Yeah, you can't use the phone and be on the internet at the same time.
Yeah, exactly.
I was downloading beats. You picked up the phone.
No, dude, I was just going to say, like, I wonder when you had that friend who had the dedicated phone line, they were just fancy, right? Like that was as fancy as it got. That didn't happen in my house. That's for sure.
Yeah, it was like in the city. It'd be somebody's cousin who had a second line. Like you get to go over on the Saturday. Yeah. In my neighborhood, nobody had two lines, but man, that was dope. If you would have had that.
You like life with the norm. That's when you grab life by the horns. Spin around twice, then you swarm. Up a storm, no strike, you're reborn. Break down the barrier, fake can't escape what you make now. I'm telling you, if you wanna be great, to be great is barrier. All that is on your plate, so wait, man, it's heavier. You gotta change your course, and that starts with a change, of course. If you wanna be the saying you're lost, cause real change comes with a change in the force. Set yourself apart from the others, don't be just another right from the jump. You gotta play your part, and if you can't, here's a start. Make a splash, impress them, be consistent and steady. So let me ask a question. Are you ready?
Making a song today, right? What I would do, man, I just pull out my phone. I can have the beat already playing on the phone and I'm typing in my Apple Notes app, right?
So easy.
Right there. Go right into the studio. Someone can email me the beat and it's right on my phone. Back then, we would have to transfer, the beat from maybe the drum machine, if we were using that, to the computer, or take the computer file, burn it to a CD. Then I have to take that CD to the studio. They have to record it to a DAT tape. All right. Yeah, we were recording on DAT tapes.
I was going to say, in the loss that happens with each recording, right? The quality just gets shittier and shittier and like
all that. It was just like a different time, but it was so cool because like you really had to be on your A game. I remember one time we were making a song on the boombox, right? So that means you get one take. We hit record on it. We play the beat on another thing. That's it, And I remember we get to the end of the song. It's like me and a couple guys, and the guy who was going second to last, he almost gets through his verse and he messes up, and we're like, oh, get off the song. We just like ready to kick him off the song because we only had one try, man. That's how it was back then.
No, it's gotta be like, and I mean, like you said, putting the work in. By the time you got a tape that you share with somebody, right? Like that wasn't because you put 10 minutes into it the night before, which I could do tonight. It was because you guys spent days and you carried that, from tape from one place to another. And so the labor you had to put in the work to have any kind of product, even if the music still sucked, it was still hard to capture, right? Like it was still, you worked to get it.
Yeah. And, like when you kind of first start like rapping for sure, but maybe I'm sure it's true with other things, you got your friends who are around you and like they want to be a part of it. Right. But as you start to like really evolve and you take things a bit more serious, like you start to see people just kind of drop off like, I was just having fun, but I'm not really trying to pay for studio time, man. So have a good one, right?
For sure.
And that's what I started to see. And I was evolving as an artist because I just wanted more with, after that first little mixtape, right? I'm like, well, I want some original music. And then, I want more original songs, or I want to have custom artwork. I want to have physical CDs, that are printed up really nice. And that was just the evolution that I really took over my career.
Is that what dictates some of your early collaboration? Like when you start to talk about like that separation between, because let's just be honest, you're paying your own way, right? You're cutting those CDs yourself and hand them out, or however you're doing that. But is that how young collaboration works?
Yeah, sometimes. I mean, I think for me, it was like I felt a part of something, right? So, I did struggle with my confidence, right? And sometimes having like other people, especially better rappers, because there was definitely a period of time where I was only rapping with people who were just like miles way more lyrical and just great spitters on the mic than me. But it made me better. It made me like sharp. You know what I mean? Sure. And then it just kind of forced me to kind of go on my own and then maybe develop my own team and kind of get my own thing. So those collaborations were just key and just pivotal in my development.
Well, yeah, sorry, Chris, I was going to say, like, who's pushing you? I mean, I can tell when you talk about it, like you got a taste for it yourself and you got, maybe a little external attention from your buddies and maybe the ladies and whatnot. But like, doesn't sound like, do you got like a big family influence? Like who's kind of the drive behind that passion?
You know what? Not a big family influence. Actually, my mom, and I love my mom, but she was not very supportive of my music career at first.
Again, late 90s, not super stoked for your kid to be a rapper. I mean, right? Like,
She's like, no, you need to get something where you can like have a career and make money and like do these things. And like, even as an adult, sometimes she's not like that so much anymore, but sometimes you can still see a little bit of that bleeding through. And it's like, yo, I'm good, Mom. I'm good. But
well, you always want, I'm sure, to have been, well, I'm not sure, but I would assume that you always wanted to be or make it big as an artist, because that's kind of a little bit of like do it. But when you start to turn it into a business, which I know for you, because I follow you on Instagram at DJ Skrilla, I see a lot of placements, right? It could be video games. It's often ESPN, like really, really often ESPN, all those types of things. Like, so we're at 25, and I know we keep going back and forth, which is kind of the way that the convention works. But like, is there a point where you wake up in the morning, it's post jive, album tour type artistry that you say, oh man, this is a lifelong career for me. This is something that will last this way.
Yeah. It's funny because, now what I want to do in music is a lot different from what I wanted to do 10 years ago, 15 years ago. Initially, I wanted to be that artist that you would see on TRL 106 in Park. You turn on the TV and like, there he is, right? That's what I had really wanted. And now what I want is to really just build up my business and still do the placements and things like that, but really create more opportunities for, other young artists, because I remember what it was like, and show people that, hey, that's cool if you want to be Bruno Mars, but there's a lot of people that make music behind the scenes and they make a really good living, and you hear their stuff, you just don't realize that you're listening to it. And that's kind of where I shifted.
That, Chris, I got to be honest, man, it's like what really jumped when Ryan kind of passed your information along. Like the first thing I thought is like that term working actor, like, again, it's not real glamorous, but it's a job. And it's like, it's living that dream. If your dream is to act, there's a difference. Do you want to be famous or do you want to do your art? Because like, I have no interest in fame. And Chris, you don't seem like someone who needs to be famous either, but you get paid to do what you love to do, which is like, I don't know, man. I don't really know too many famous people, but all the famous people I know were real happy right before they got famous, right? They stopped being happy once everyone started knowing who they were. Like, be careful what you wish for.
Yeah. And I'm, naturally an introvert. I tell people I'm an outgoing introvert, and people are like, what? You're not introvert. Yeah, actually, I really am. But so when I'd say it was probably about 2015, I was on the brink of releasing an album called All In, and I hadn't made music for like 2 years prior to that because I had quit, right? And I remember a friend that I collaborated with named Jim Casto. He just would like stay on top of me about like making music, and whatever he said to me this day, it just clicked, and I started to make this album. So that's sort of where I'm at this point. Now, I also have to tell you another story. Growing up, I grew up in a house full of women, my mom, my aunt, my grandmother, and my mom worked a lot. And one of the things that we shared together, she would like go to the mall and she'd give me money to go to like the arcade, and she'd just watch me play arcade games. And I don't know what it was about that, but I just love that experience together. So I'm sitting at my apartment one day, this is years later, so I'm mid-20s or whatever. And I'm like, man, I wish I had an arcade machine. Now, I think most people at that moment would just be like, yeah, I wish I did, and kind of carry on drinking their beer, eating chips or whatever. But no, it just wouldn't get out of my head. And I'm like, well, I'm going to build one. I'm going to build an arcade machine. Just randomly just said, I'm going to do it. Didn't even have the money, but for some reason I found the money, right? Worked and found it. And I built this arcade machine. And while I was getting the artwork done for the arcade machine, I just emailed this graphic designer that I found on Tumblr, just Googled and found this guy. And we became friends. And he said to me one day, hey, would you ever want to make songs for TV and film? So I had no idea that he was an artist, had no idea that he was connected in TV and film song making, but he designed my arcade graphics, and he gave me this opportunity that, who says that to someone, right?
Really?
Yeah, that's really what happened.
No shit. Okay, so that's where it starts to become more into like the licensing game.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I just happened to hire the right graphic designer, and so he sets this meeting up with Warner Chappell. So there's like Warner Brothers, right? And then Warner Brothers has like a million different other companies, underneath them that, they have several movie companies. They have a couple record labels, and then they have a Warner Chappell production music division. So production music is basically that music that you're going to hear in commercials, in TV shows, in film. And a lot of it is music that you haven't heard before, right? So it's a lot cheaper for a movie to pay someone that has a song that sounds like Kanye West than it is to pay Kanye West to make a song for their movie, right? So that's where production music comes in. And I had no idea about it. And I met with these folks at Warner Chappell, and they're like, look, we've been having some problems with rappers. We're just going to tell you up front. You got one shot. They're like,
oh, okay.
They hit me with that. They're like, look, the last few guys we tried, they haven't been reliable. They can't meet deadlines. They kind of seemed like they were just like fed up, but they were like doing my friend Billy, who introduced me, a solid. And I'm like, all right, cool. And the first project we did, I don't know, like 15 like minute and a half songs. And it was awesome. It was a great experience. And after I turned that album in, they were like, okay, so we said we were going to pay you this much for this, but we like it so much, we're going to give you some more. So they actually paid us both more than what they said they would.
Yeah. So that probably doesn't happen very often in the music industry, I can imagine.
No, that definitely doesn't
happen in any industry.
You're more likely not.
I was going to say, what are you doing, Ryan? So wait a minute. This is the first thing they tell you guys when you walk in for the meeting is like, we hate your genre of music. Like what? I mean, I know that's not what they said, but can you be a little bit more expansive on how were they delicate about that at all? Or were they just like, listen, man, we know what you do. We don't like what you do, but we got it.
It wasn't necessarily that harsh, but I mean, they were direct. It was just like, look, I've got to be honest, we've had some problems with rappers, and basically we're not looking for any more problems right now. So I just didn't ask any questions. I'm just like, all right, well, I'll be sure to deliver.
Man.
I'm just like, all right, if I said I'm going to deliver this album in 2 months, I'm going to actually deliver it in a month, because I want to really show these guys that I'm serious, and it's been a great relationship since.
So I watch a lot of ESPN, bro. So you are in my ears constantly, Chris. And like, that's what I want people to kind of wrap their heads around is if you ever watch SportsCenter or, College Football Saturday or anything on ESPN, chances are you've heard at least a 15-second snippet, and it's been pure Chris Harris, DJ Skrilla. Like I don't know why, to me, that is so cool. Like if I could go buy your album and it was just 20 tracks, that's really cool too. But nowadays that's almost easier to do, isn't it? Like it's easier to have that out there than to go through these, dude, you're surviving through so many channels. You know what I mean? And like that selection process you talk about, are there hundreds of tracks out there that you've made and you don't know if they'll ever get used?
I think last year alone, I think I had recorded, I go to the same studio and he just looked through all the files and there were like 230 like songs for the year. I mean, that was last year, and that was just like insane. So what happened, I started with Warner Chappell. They gave me my start, like, and I love them for that. Then what happened, people had heard something and then they're like, okay, well, who is that artist? And they like found me.
I mean, you're a permanent free agent essentially, right? Like you can.
Yeah. And I mean, I just have learned so much and I'm still learning, but really that first year, the first 2 years, I just had no idea really how a lot of things worked. They have a big award assembly, that they call the Mark Awards. It's basically like the awards for production music. And my first year of doing it, I won the best hip hop song, which I mean, like,
that's incredible, man.
And I didn't realize it was like kind of a thing. And then I went to go buy the award because they don't give it to you. You got to buy it.
Oh, that's some shit.
It was like 400 and something bucks. And I'm like, what? I'm like, yo, I don't even know if I made that much on this song, right? But it was cool, man. So I keep it here.
So, and this is maybe a little personal, but it just right away was a question I had. Like, do you get checks in the mail or do you get paid when you submit the song? And it's just,
it can be
it's
both.
not your property anymore.
You know, this is like really good to talk about because there may be someone who wants to do this kind of work and they just don't know. A lot of things are going to depend on your deal, but how your contract is structured. So let's say if someone gives you upfront money, so you may get upfront money for a song. So you do a song and I'm the label and I pay you $500 for the song, right? I'm basically buying out the publishing. I'm buying out the ownership of that song. All right. So, yep. And then anytime that song airs, it's placed and it airs on TV, right? You're going to get a royalty for that.
Always? It's sometimes though, isn't it just like a one-time fee or not? You're always getting royalty.
If it keeps airing, I mean, listen, you can make some good money with royalties if you get the right placement. Think about syndication, right? You get a song that's on Friends, right? Yeah, Friends, they don't have new episodes. Yeah, but how many stations across the world are they syndicated on, right?
Chris, if I'm really naive and I'm 16 and I want to do anything, are there people out there that will lock me into deals that pay me once? Because that seems like the ultimate, like you hear about that used to happen all the time in the music industry, right? Where like, you know, boy bands don't have rights to
a record contract is not an easy document to read, right? Sometimes when you get a contract, you just have this excitement and this adrenaline rush. Wow, I'm getting put on, or I'm making the moves, you know, whatever. And you really got to look at it. So with production music, they don't generally touch the writer share, which is the royalty that you would receive. So, but if I gave you upfront money, right, you took $500 from me. So that's what you got for that song. Okay. Now what happens? So now I own your song. Let's say, I don't know, HBO, right? They come to me and they're like, hey, we want to use Mike's song. We're going to pay you $5,000 to use it in this episode. So they're just paying $5,000 just to use the song. You don't get any of that.
You got your 500. The middleman got the $5,000.
So, but there's a risk too.
But yeah, you got to make that decision off the bat usually, right? I mean,
how do you get back of that?
It takes time. I mean, and look, I mean, there have been situations where I didn't realize, right? You know, I've had growing pains too, you know, as an adult for sure. So royalty is kind of hard because like royalties depend on a lot of things, not just like what they're using it in, but like, is it in prime time? They add a weight to each royalty. So each royalty is not the same, but you know, you might make, you know, you're going to make some change on a royalty, like if it airs, right? But if it's airing all the time throughout the day, hey, it can add up.
Hey, hope you're enjoying this episode of the show with Chris Harris. Do you ever wonder how Mike and I are able to get so many cool guests to come on? Well, it's because we know a bunch of people and we ask them to. So we're asking you, do you know anybody who might be able to or like to come on to the show to talk to Mike and I? We're looking for quality interview guests who have unique experience with their career and enjoy pursuit of happiness. If that's you, or you know somebody like that, please take a second to reach out to us on any of our social media networks. Thanks. Now back to Chris.
All right. I got a little distracted there. Yes. The beast mode song for the Westminster is like, dude, I watched this so many times. Like I love it. I couldn't find it on YouTube. It's all these other ones, but yeah, like I was going through your feed last night, and Chris he's just shopping at Target, and he picks up a greeting card, and it's those cards you open up and they say shit. Well, like he opens it up and it's him saying stuff, and I can't wrap my head around. Like, my first thought would be like, I didn't get paid for this. My second thought would be like, this is not what I intended for my stuff to be. But like, I think you seem to just be like, yeah, this is the world I'm in, right? Like,
I do like some voiceover work as well. So this is kind of like the third job, some like voiceover acting gigs. And American Greetings, they do a lot of these like kind of hip hop parody greeting cards. And I got an opportunity, I think it was 2017. And that was one of the first cards that I did. It was like this rapping lawn chair. And I'm like reading these lyrics. I'm not writing these birthday card lyrics. And it's like, yo, I'm a chair. It's your birthday. Happy. And it's like over the top. And I'm like, all right, I'm really doing this. You know what I mean? But you got to commit.
Yeah. No, you got to do it.
They compensate you, right? Well, and that's it. You don't know, like it goes into just like the Matrix. You have no idea what's going to happen. So I'm in Target 2 weeks ago, and I just pick up this lawn chair, and I'm like, what is this? I'm looking for a birthday card, and I press it, and it's like, it's your birthday. Happy. And I'm like, yo, that's me. And I know these people in Target are just looking at me like, why is this guy videotaping a greeting card? Like,
that cracks me up. Like, no, I couldn't stop laughing. Just the idea of like, oh, wow, there I am. That's kind
of the other cool thing that's happened with this whole production music journey. I was really surprised by how many people actually could recognize my voice and hear things before I would hear them. I mean, I'm talking like some of the biggest placements I've received, like the Call of Duty, the commercial. It's like for Call of Duty, I don't know, one of the warfares or something, Black Ops. And I get a Facebook message from one of my friends who I met while I was in college. He went to Iowa State. All right. So he's in Iowa. All right. I haven't talked to this guy in almost 10 years. He messages me, hey, man, I think I heard you on this Call of Duty commercial. I'm like, what? No, you didn't. Then he sends me a link. Yes, he did. And there it is. And that's happened so many times. And it's like, all right, this is actually like getting some traction. This is starting to make some noise. And
no, that's gotta feel. I mean, that's just I'm not gonna go to what's next yet because I still feel like there's cool stuff to talk about here. But I mean, like, this is all kind of ramped up pretty quick, eh? Like you in 2015, you sit with Warner Chappell for the first time, and now you sound like a veteran in this industry of production music. That's a lot. I remember years ago reading about Donald Glover, the Childish Gambino. And, when he was coming up as a writer and an actor, he had this kind of, alter ego. He was really into rapping and being a lyricist, but it wasn't something he was getting paid for necessarily. And it certainly wasn't bringing him any kind of fame, at least early on. But I remember reading about his colleagues. Like he rapped to him, behind the scenes, and he would share tidbits with them. And they all were very honest about like, no, man, like this dude was on some other shit. Like he was clearly very talented. We just didn't really know he was so serious about it. And I wonder, like, you have a pretty serious job, dude. And not that by pretty serious job, everything you do, it sounds like you take it pretty seriously, Chris. But, what's the examiner's office thinking about, your elevating fame and popularity? And I guess the second part of that question is like, do you see a potential fork in the road where you'll kind of have to make a decision?
That's a great question. So the first part of your question, I generally don't tell people sort of about like the music stuff when I'm at work, but you tell one person, it gets around, right? So for the most part, the office has been great. Like everybody's been very supportive, and really outside of the office, it'll bleed into other agencies. So, I mean, I literally could have someone from, I won't say which police department, but they could call me about something, about some serious case. And then at the end of the call, hey, I see you're doing some things. You got a nice little placement going on there, huh? And then they want to talk about that.
That's awesome.
And it's like really cool. I think like one of the oh my God moments was I did something for the sheriff's department, and I'm like by the sheriff, right? And I mean, he's the man, and he's just like, "What's up, DJ Skrilla?" And I'm like, and it was just like I didn't know what to say to that. I'm like,
well, it's like you got caught with your hand in the cookie jar, but you're not doing nothing wrong, right? Like it's not a conflict, and it doesn't affect your work. If anything, I feel like in talking to you, if you didn't have that creative outlet, it would affect your work.
It would. But to answer your next part, there is a point where there's going to be this like fork in the road, right? Because what I've noticed in the past maybe 2 to 3 years with the production music, the stakes are getting bigger, right? More projects, bigger projects, things that require more time. I'm actually currently right now trying to develop my own small production team and house, right? So, and that's been a lot of fun, but it's like, wow, there's so much work, there's a lot of work that's involved that you don't even think about. Now, as far as the ME's office, right? So it's not the most creative job, but what was really important for me, and this is like really important in anything I do, I'm like, how can I make an impact? And not to like sound like corny or cliche, but like the ME's office is full of doctors. It's full of forensic scientists, right? All the buildings and are named after scientists or doctors. All the plaques on the walls are from scientists or doctors. And I just thought to myself, like, how can I make my impact to where people across the medical examiner community in the country know exactly who I am and the work that I do there. So one of the things that I wanted to do was create a citizens academy for the medical examiner's office. So typically a citizens academy is something you'd see at a police department. You spend 8 to 10 weeks at the police department, one night a week, and you learn about police stuff, right? I thought like, hey, we should do that at our office. And I had Googled and done research, and it wasn't offered at any office that I could find across the US. So I'm like, okay, we're going to create one. And then each week, we'll have 30 county residents come to the office. We'll feed you. We'll have, hands-on activities, presentations. One week you may learn about fingerprints. The next week you may just see case studies, just see all the types of different cases that we see and see actual photos. You'll get to see an autopsy. We'll do practice death scene investigation, take them in our mock area where they'll actually have to solve, a death scene.
Well, Chris, this has been this is amazing, man. I don't think
y'all are easy to talk to, man. Y'all are great.
That means a lot. I guess we do get that feedback from time to time. This is an adventure for us, for sure, to try to learn how to do this. We've lost a lot of audio. We've gone through a few microphones. I mean, man, it's been weird a little bit from a show perspective. So that means a lot to us. And I think that the more that we're able to get out there, it's probably, similar to you as a creative, like the more that you're able to expose your work, the more feedback you're able to get. And it's not easy. I mean, we've got some tough feedback just through our short amount of time where, it makes you second guess. And I think when you're trying to produce something that's a piece, whether that be like a journalism piece. I've not made music, so I won't speak to that, but like feedback can really mess with you if you're not in the right spot to hear it. And so I know that's hit both of us, right, Mike?
Yeah, man.
And how they deliver it too, right?
I don't think you get into the business of affecting others without being affected by others, right? Like, I mean, if I wanted to just draw on the wall in my basement, I could do that. But at some point, you want it to reach, and, to pretend you don't care then why are you doing it? If you don't care, why are you sharing it with people? So, yeah, we're all human. Chris, I've been looking forward to this interview for weeks. And like many of our interviews, I just go into it completely selfishly about like, what am I interested in? Because I hope our viewers have similar curiosities to me, but we get guests like you, man. And I'm just thinking, shit, I guess it's appropriate to start winding this down, but I got to cut myself off.
Yeah.
Ron, like your personality, like everything about you, Chris, like I have no doubt, man.
Got to do it again.
Like everything you shared today, from the technical stuff to just the actual experiential. I don't know, man. I know you're a mentor to some people out there, and I just want to encourage you to just keep doing everything you're doing, Chris. I know you don't need to hear it from me, man, but yeah, you're a special dude, and I'm looking forward to seeing what's next, man. There's going to be a lot. I know it.
Man, I appreciate it. And seriously, y'all, I'm not just saying this. I feel like I'm just even better after participating in y'all podcast. Y'all come to Cleveland, all right?
Chris,
I'll give you a tour
to Cleveland, it will be for you. All right. I want, and I mean that. All right, man. If I'm ever in Cleveland, I'm going to hit you up.
Man, I used to go to
Red
Cleveland. You know, part of my dream is to go back to Detroit. And if I am back in Detroit, you see a lot more of me in Cleveland. I love Cleveland. I do, man. It doesn't. I'm
not hating on Cleveland. It's just not on my a flight from. There's no direct. Bro, there's no direct from Honolulu to Cleveland. I know that much.
Hating on him. Yeah, I suppose you don't really have too much of a reason. We get through there enough because, you know, we go back through Kent State, or, you know, Anna has that connection there. My wife's parents or my wife's mom is from Cleveland too. So we come through, but
I haven't been to Cleveland since I went there with Mike Doherty in middle school to go to East 99 in St. Clair and see where Bone Thugs and Harmony grew up. That was my last swing through.
Really?
Yeah, you know what? We got to do this podcast again. I'll tell you my Bone
So all the years that our
right?
friend coached the Cleveland Cavaliers, you never went to visit? You never went to see the Cavs play?
Bro, I lived in Toronto. I lived in Toronto. So the Cavs came. I saw him every time he came to Toronto. And yeah, I mean, I probably could be a better friend in the future. I'll aspire to that. But I wasn't. It's in my future. More Chris Harris and more Cleveland in my future.
Chris, if I want to find you on the social webosphere, what do I do? How do I find you?
You can go to my website. That's www.chrisbharris, and that's B like Bravo. So chrisbharris.com. You can find me on Instagram at DJ Skrilla. That's DJSCRILLA. I'm on Twitter too, but I don't tweet, so you're just wasting your time. But yeah, that's where you can find me. Check it out.
Well, thanks for joining us today. I can certainly see a future episode where you could join us. We start to talk about putting together some panel episodes here in the near future with some different subjects and such. So I know you've got more than one piece of expertise to comment on. So if you're listening and you're not following yet, you got to get on the show. It's at conventioNOT _podcast on Twitter too. We got the same thing. We don't really go on there, but I do think you could find our new episodes there. And then Instagram is our jam. That's where we stay. Pandora, all of that. So really appreciate you coming on. Got to mention them all. So thanks, Chris.
Thanks, Chris.
All right, thank you, guys. Peace.
So let me ask a question. Are you ready? Look, I'm a breath of fresh air. Yes, I am the best. Tell the rest to rest here. If you sit up for less, then you're left with a mess here. Still, I must confess, I'll be a best next year. You can feel my style. Just look around when I'm round and you see all smiles. When I go and look at you, I see your files. So you should wave a white flag. I don't need y'all tiles. If you really want to get it, the way that I get it, admit it that I'll be about my business. I stop when I finish. Yeah. I can't be contained. I think outside the box when I feed my brain. And if I seem insane, it's cause I'm on a whole nother level. I don't need the lane. All I need is the win and is in my path if I remember this. Make a splash and press them. Be consistent and steady. So let me ask a question.